event from the National Association of Local Councillors. Make a change, become a councillor. I'm Matt Chorley. I'm Times Radio host. You can listen to me on the radio Monday to Thursday, 10 till 1. Or you can read me the Times on a Saturday, or basically they get me to do anything. I basically do anything else that I'm told. But I'm thrilled to be your chair this evening. And normally with one of these things, we'd say, wouldn't it be nice if we were all together? But we probably wouldn't be, because actually we've got hundreds of people who are interested in becoming parish councillors from right across the country, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. So I'm just here as an enthusiast and connoisseur of parish councils. I started my journalistic career at the Taunton Times. I grew up in Taunton, Somerset. My first job on the Taunton Times as a trainee reporter, being assigned 2 or 3 parish councils, and would go off to endless meetings, hoping to find news. It might be a planning row or whatever it might be. None of them, I'm afraid, ever became quite as famous as that parish council meeting at Handforth, that I'm sure we'll hear about at some point during this evening. But I think what's really important, why we've covered parish councils on my radio show since, and why I was so keen to do this event, is because parish councils are important. And funny though the video was, we shouldn't discuss. It maybe reinforce some preconceptions about parish councils which are not totally true in the 21st century, and in fact it's less Vicar of Dibley than some people might like to make out. So that's what we're going to try and do this evening, is explain your interest in becoming a. Well, I don't. There is some. Anyway, we'll cover how like the Vicar of Dibley is. There are some heads being shaken already amongst the panelists, so we'll come to that in a moment. But yeah, what we want to do is try and give you an idea of what it's like to be a parish councillor, what you'll get out of it, what you need to put into it, will it fit around your life and all that sort of thing. But you've already got over the big hump because you've decided to join this event, so you're basically already there, and there's no escape now. They've got your details. There's no escape. So I'm just here as just the host. We've got such a cracking panel. Then let's just get on and hear from them. I'm delighted. Oh, I need to do let's do the house rules first of all. You can see them all on the screen already. All of you attending and watching won't be visible on screen, but make sure your screen name is your full name so we can see you. The event will be recorded and will be available again on the National Association of Local Councils website, so you can watch it all back again and again, like your favorite Netflix box set. If you want to talk to each other during the hour or so we're talking, then you can use the chat function with each other, or if you've got any technical problems and that sort of thing. Be nice though. We're all friends here, and we've already had loads of questions sent in for the Q&A. So we'll hear from the panelists in the first half an hour. The second half an hour will be the Q&A. But if you want to post any questions as we go along, you can do that in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen on Zoom, and we'll do that towards the latter half of the hour. Right then, let's introduce our panel. I'm delighted to be joined by Councillor Dan Thomas from Much Wenlock Town Council in Shropshire. We've also got Councillor Emily Benner from Croxley Green Parish Council. I had Emily on my show the other day when we were talking about parish council, which is excellent. We've also got Councillor Rachael Pearson from Denmead Parish Council. And we've got, I don't know if you've heard of her, someone called Jackie Weaver. You may have picked up that Jackie is something of a legend already in the world of parish councils. She officially is Chief Officer of the Cheshire Association of Local Councils, but obviously better known as a viral sensation. All of whom have got great stories about describing exactly what being on a parish or town council involves. So if you are passionate about your community, which I guess you are because you've already joined us, and you want to help make change, or maybe you've just got a problem locally, you think, well, this is the only way. If nobody else is going to sort it out, I'm going to sort it out. Our panel on hand to tell you what you need to know, what you might have to do, and the role of the parish councillor, and how to become one. So I think we've done all of the housekeeping. We've done all of the panel. I've introduced everybody. So let's kick off, as they say, get the show underway. Let's start with Jackie, first of all, because before we even get to what does a parish council involve, what does your role involve, Jackie? Ringleader, circus ring. What do you do in the world of parish councils when you're not being a viral sensation?
Thank you, Matt. I mean, first of all, I love the idea that you're now a captive audience. We've got you, and there's no escape. Although I think you were probably joking. What's my role with regard to town and parish councils? Well, up until a month ago, it was a backseat supportive role. There is an equivalent Jackie Weaver in every county, old Shire county, and our job is to provide support, guidance and training to all the town and parish councils in our locality, so that anybody taking on an active role in a town or parish council needn't fear that actually they're kind of on their own with no support. There is support out there for them. That's what we do in the day job.
And what's been your experience of interacting with supporting and parish councils? What's your assessment of what is a good parish council? What's about? How many different shapes and sizes they come in?
It's an interesting question, Matt. I mean, for me, it's kind of not about what I think is a good town or parish council. It's about what your community thinks is a good town or parish council. I know that we've spoken, at length over the last month and behind the scenes for much, much longer about diversity. And I've made the point before now that actually there are some parishes where an older demographic, mainly farmers, mainly men, is actually representative of their community, and we should leave them alone. But there are many communities where that kind of model is not representative of the community, and this kind of event, the kind of campaign that NALC have been running, is all about changing that.
And I suppose that it's partly an issue of if you have in your mind what you think a parish councillor looks like. I mean, the same is true, when I'm covering national politics, people think they know what an MP looks like. They think, well, that's not for me. But actually, explain a bit about parish councils. There's no politics, party politics anyway in parish and town councils, hopefully.
Yeah, again, an interesting point, Matt. There's no politics. Well, there's very little party politics, but there sure as heck is politics in parish councils. But because by their very nature, they are populated by people who hopefully, and Daniel and Emily will pick that up later, hopefully people who are passionate about their communities. And when you're passionate about something in the community, you're going to speak up for it. And consequently, you might end up with opposing views, and in which case you have politics.
You have got politics. Now, obviously, we saw something resembling politics on that famous Handforth Parish Council meeting, which is, if you haven't watched it already, I don't know how you've signed up for this without having done it. But anyway, how typical is that of all of the many parish council meetings you've sat through, Jackie?
It's not typical of it at all. I mean, I do regularly make the kind of point that, when you are in local government at any level, you have to be happy or able to make your point and to engage in robust debate. But there's a heck of a difference between robust debate and what you saw that night on the video. And I think most people who are involved in parish councils or local democracy understand robust debate, but we don't normally experience hostility like you saw that night.
It does seem like there are particular problems with Handforth Parish Council anyway. In a sort of broader sense, what are the different roles on a parish council? Who does have the authority, to coin a phrase, and who should and shouldn't be in the parish council meeting?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, parish councils are local government, and you cannot have any form of local government, excuse me, that doesn't come with rules and regulations. So that famous phrase of read your standing orders, read them and understand them, actually makes a good point. You should read your standing orders and you should understand them, because they're basically the constitution of your council. So you've got kind of like three main players, some of them more visible than others. Your councillors are the obvious ones. Councillor has an important role of being out there and in touch with the community. So, representative role, understanding the community, and also having a desire to move the community forward. So to provide some leadership and to provide some vision for that community. But I often say that people who have that kind of vision and that drive don't normally join a parish council because they like paperwork. But paperwork is involved. So we have officers, that's the clerk, someone whose job it is to make what you hope for in your council, what you aspire to do in your council, into a reality. Someone who will help you through the legislation to make, say, your dreams come true, but try and achieve your aspirations for your local community. Chairman, again, we saw a chairman in action. I like to think that we have at least 9,999 chairmen that don't behave in that way. But clearly, you know, any team needs a leader. And in a parish council, that role is taken by the chairman. Those are the players. Those are
the main players. Okay, well, we'll come back more to what goes on in meetings at the moment. Let's speak to some of our real life parish councillors. Let's speak to Dan Thomas first. Councillor Dan Thomas, a Much Wenlock Town Council in Shropshire. Dan, just sort of tell us your story. How did you become? You're already, any people watching can see you're already much younger than the Vicar of Dibley stereotype, which is good. How did you end up on the parish council, and why did you do it? And then what did you sort of set about doing, and how did it compare to your expectations?
Hi, yes, I'm Dan Thomas of Much Wenlock Town Council, which is a small historic town in Shropshire. It's great to be here talking tonight with councillors from across the country. There's some really good examples of councillors with different backgrounds. With me, I was born in Much Wenlock and lived in Much Wenlock all my life except for university. Much Wenlock is a rural town where the house prices are quite prohibitive for first-time buyers. So I was personally able to build a home local to Much Wenlock as my parents had a small holding in the area. Whereas so many of my friends who weren't so fortunate had to move to other towns for places where they could afford to buy. And it's because I stayed, I wanted to give something back and provide a youthful voice to our town council and help improve things for all members of our community. The average national age of a councillor when I joined in 2018 was 59 years old, I believe. And in Much Wenlock, I think it was even higher. So all I wanted to do was add a different viewpoint and add some youthful energy to kind of help drive things and support the council. The people in my town have been incredible in their support of me, and they really seem to appreciate having someone young on the council. I've been able to engage with the townsfolk through a range of social media methods, whereas before, only one of the councillors was actually even had a Facebook account. I made use of social media to help get the council messages out there, and many people will be here tonight with different stages of their career thinking about this, but all of them will have skills and knowledge to offer. For me, in my day job, I work in recruitment, and that means that it's very useful when we have to recruit staff at things like the town council or support recruitment of councillors. The downside of social media, while people don't always realise they can make a difference, for example, you can complain about the lack of things for young people in your town on Facebook. That's really easy, but that doesn't actually lead to change, such as providing youth hubs or a pump track for bikes. But campaigning on these, fundraising for these, and providing youth services, that brings change. And as a younger councillor, you can give the council the views of younger people. For instance, explaining what a pump track is, or other youth speak, and you can help older generations understand what the younger generations are looking for. You literally have the skills already to do this, but being a councillor enables you to open doors and be taken seriously. The process of getting elected gains you respect and shows you have enough about you to stick around for the long haul and see things through, which in turn then encourages people to work with you. As a councillor, you really get to see and hear about the great individual things that people are doing in your town. Things before I was completely unaware of. But once you realise the volunteer work that people do, and you appreciate the spirit, friendship and feeling of belonging it creates in a community, whether it's volunteer litter picks, to mutual aid groups, to the Wenlock Walkers or the Historical Society, these things take up people's time and effort, but they add so much value and enjoyment to people who live in your town and their lives. Being a councillor makes it much easier to facilitate these things. And I've really noticed that in my time when calling for volunteers and working on different projects. It can seriously be challenging at times. It can get very busy. I think the main reason the average age is so high is because they have more free time than us. They're probably retired. And sometimes social media doesn't help. people with very little knowledge of the subject who aren't really interested in helping can be unproductive, they can be negative, or even downright rude. It's quite easy to message someone on Facebook any time of night, and I'll be sitting there like, I'm watching Netflix with my wife right now. I'll call you tomorrow. I'll explain then. Please leave me alone for a second. But at least because of my social media usage, the town and its council are getting positive messages out there. So you're kind of having the two benefits. And one thing I think that gets overlooked and has been particularly important for me is that the changes that being on the council can bring to your life and kind of your career. I might like to take a step forward towards management someday, but I don't manage people in my role. But thankfully, as mayor of the town, I've got great experience now managing town council staff, other councillors, all of whom are older than me, and I've got great experience chairing meetings and leading projects. It adds so much more value to your career knowledge and skills, much more than Netflix, much more than Xbox, though I still do love Call of Duty. One of the recent projects that I worked on was a tarmac path across our town park. It's been used by all, from pushchair users to children learning to ride bikes, to the disabled and the elderly, who were probably the people we had in mind when kind of building it to make them have more of a chance to use this great town park that we've got. I took over as chair of the committee and was able to go out and get extra funding for an additional £15,000 when we desperately needed it for the project. And this has been a lifeline for our townspeople, made a huge difference in the pandemic because it's been somewhere they can safely and securely exercise. I mean, apart from my work with the Project from Our Park, one of my biggest contributions has been showing people in my community that you don't have to be retired to make a difference. All you need is passion and love for your town and its people. That's it. It is a little cliche, but you too can make a change by becoming a local councillor.
Very good, Dan. A very good story, and wrapping up with the slogan as well. You extra brownie points for you. You were too modest to point out. You actually became the National Association of Local Councils Star Council Awards Young Councillor of the Year in 2019. So when you talked about the average age of the councillors being 59, how old were you when you became a councillor?
Well, I was 26 at that time. In 2018, so I'm 29 now.
Oh, you don't look it, Dad. You don't look it. But there's a really good. We'll come back with loads of questions already come through in the Q&A. If you have got questions, post them in the Q&A at the bottom. We'll try and get through as many of those as we can. Let's go to Emily now. Emily Bennett from Croxley Green Parish Council. Emily, tell us your story, how you ended up as a councillor and what you've got out of it.
Yeah, so I joined the council back in, it was probably similar time to Dan actually, kind of 2017-ish. And actually it was a bit of a different story for me where I had moved into the area. So I didn't grow up in Croxley Green. It's a lovely little village, a huge kind of community feel. The area that I grew up in didn't have that so much. You kind of knew your neighbours, but you wouldn't know people beyond that. People did tend to move out the area. So when I moved into Croxley Green, I loved the village feel. I didn't know much about parish councils or town councils. I didn't hear about them when I grew up. So when I moved in and I could see them constantly in the newspaper and all the councillors doing great things for our community, things like we bought, well, I wasn't on the council at the time, but they bought a woodland, beautiful woodland for residents to enjoy, moving some travellers off the green just to make sure that it was kind of safe and also there was no mess left behind and that kind of thing. And I immediately thought I need to be part of this group. I didn't think about my age, so I think I really admire Dan kind of going in and thinking, actually, I want to be a bit different. I applied and I kind of didn't know what anyone looked like or who was really on the council. It was just the first opportunity where someone had left and had left a vacancy, and essentially it's called a casual vacancy. So if you're on this on this event now and thinking I want to be part of my council, but you're not having elections this year, please don't kind of immediately think you can't be part of it, because people do leave within the 4 years and opportunities do arise and then you can apply for them. So that's how I got on, and I managed to do that for a year before our next election. So it really gave me a sense of what's the council like before committing to 4 years. But I turned up to my co-option and had to give a speech, and it was only at that point that I noticed just a room of mainly retired men, and I kind of was there. And actually I got such a warm welcome, And similarly to Dan, I was able to give a different viewpoint, but really for me, it was an opportunity to give back to the community. I'd already, I run a charity alongside working and being a counsellor that supports elderly people in care homes that have no loved ones. So actually, I kind of feel very close to lots of different age groups rather than just being young people. But I was been really pleased to be able to provide a different viewpoint, kind of looking at the social media side of things. And I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it. I did the year and I decided actually I do want to stand for election, then got elected in. And the types of things I've been involved in are really broad. For me, it's definitely not about politics. And to Jackie's point around, people, there's politics because people are passionate, but really at my council, it's not like that at all. Everyone's very supportive of each other. Obviously not just voting for things if their friends have come up with an idea, but there is no politics involved. If there was, I wouldn't have joined my council. We're all independent. We've done things like we have a community bus on a Friday that takes elderly residents who may not otherwise be able to leave their homes down to our town centre so they can go shopping, and brings them back, and they play games on the bus and sing songs, and it's brilliant. Maintaining the local green space. I decided at Christmas last year, because it'd been just an awful year for everyone, and we normally have a kind of a Christmas market and really lovely village feel to that we would run an outdoor Christmas karaoke. And it was a suggestion I made as a bit of a joke at a meeting, thinking, I wonder if this will take off. And everyone said, do you know what? You've come up with some ideas before that were a bit different. Let's just go with it and see. And we did. We had Santa. It was outdoors. People had to book slots, come along, sing a Christmas carol or two, and then go home. And it was brilliant. So there's all the really serious stuff, and there's all the really important stuff. But it's also an opportunity to do some of the light-hearted things that you want to do in the community, because I think that's what makes it a really enjoyable place to live as well.
That's a very good sales pitch. And I think we shouldn't say that we're in no way maligning semi-retired men of a certain age, because were it not for them, there'd be no parish councils at all in lots of cases. But obviously it's good to have, and they'll be glad of some fresh blood and some fresh ideas and all that sort of thing. But if you are a semi-retired man watching this and you're thinking of becoming, don't let that put you off, because I know you will be made to feel very welcome. Indeed. So thank you very much, Emily, for that. That was a really good roundup of good motivate, and it is supposed to be fun. It is possible to enjoy it as well. Right, before we do your questions, then keep putting them in the Q&A. We've got loads, so I'll hope to try and get through as many as possible. But let's hear now from Rachael Pearson from Denmead Parish Council in Hampshire. Oh, at the risk of this turning into Hamford, that you are on mute, Rachael. I'm not sure if Rachael unmutes herself or somebody unmutes Rachael for. There we are. You're back. So yeah, Rachael, tell us your story. How did you end up as a parish councillor?
Okay, so a few years ago, I was asked to speak at the Houses of Parliament for a select committee for domestic violence, and I really, really wanted to do it, but I was just too scared. I was too frightened to do it. My fear just took my voice away, which is often done much throughout my life, especially faced with authority. I let myself down, and more importantly, I let down the people who I could have potentially helped in attending that committee. So when I noticed that there was a placement in my local council, I thought it would be a really great idea to kind of give it a go and face my fear, while also, learning and growing and benefiting and helping my local community. And it's not too shabby on the CV,
That's a good point, though. It's a good point. It's a good point to make that, it's not, it's good for the community. It's good for you because you might go out and meet some new people and that sort of thing. But yeah, but if you try to stand out in the jobs market, it's not a bad thing to say you've literally built something or raised the money for something or solved something, or you're good at making decisions or chairing them. They're all good life skills, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when you're scared to do something and you want to try and do it, you're always going to have a voice going, you're not articulate enough, or you're not clever enough, or you're not the right kind of person to be on council. And I'm here to tell you that actually there is no type of person to be on council. I think that councils will be better off when we have council members that have faced real adversity in their lives, that have a whole range of experiences, both good and bad. You know, whether that's been you've been homeless, can you advise on social housing? Maybe you've suffered from social isolation. Maybe you can help people access local services. You know, the only thing you really need is a genuine desire to help, like Dan said. When I grew up, I don't ever remember where I grew up. I don't ever remember there ever being counsellors around. I remember the hardship and I remember the poverty. I also remember a lesson on school where the object was to talk about prejudice and the reason why we shouldn't put our addresses down on our job applications, because people would not give us an opportunity of job. I have no doubt that the object of that lesson was to help us to get jobs and a career. However, the subconscious message of that lesson was to be ashamed of who you are and where you come from, however unintentionally. Nobody should ever be ashamed of where they come from or who they are, and it should definitely not stop you from becoming a local councillor. You know, you have, I'm very sorry. I'm so nervous.
No, you're honestly, what an amazing story though, Rachel, to make that, to go from saying you couldn't appear in a select committee to doing this in front of, because you're so passionate about wanting to, you know, 200 other people or however many are on the calls, because they want to, you know, they want to learn from you and everything that you've done. What do you think is the thing that you've done that you're most proud of? The thing that you, the reason that you go, the reason you sit through the boring stuff, because you know about that really good thing.
Well, I'm proud of my autism work that I do. With Autism Isolation No More, and we're preventing isolation for families affected by autistic spectrum condition. Basically, I have families come and they access free sensory equipment and support. You know, we've made it policy to make Denmead disability friendly. Now we have to make it reality. You know, so hopefully we do it so well that it ricochets all throughout the country.
Exactly, but then I suppose that's also the thing, isn't it? The National Association of Local Councils. That's the whole point. Is that, you know, the next time that Emily wants to do something on those lines, she can get in touch with you and, you know, and learn. And that's the whole, because it's not about party politics, and we've had quite a lot of questions about that. It's not about, but it's just about, you know, doing the right thing for your area, and so you can learn from somewhere else, and then someone else can learn from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even on the parish town councils, I wouldn't say it's good for you to get into a clique, because you need to be an individual and make individual decisions at your own will, and not just because you like that person or you like this person. I was asked to talk about any real issues that I've had, and the only really issue that I've ever had is when I've written it down. Well, let me see if I can find it. That is when my own personal belief system clashes with a large group of residents, because ultimately I am there to represent the residents. Even if I don't agree with it, I still have to do it. I'm there for them. So my advice would be to say your piece, however minimal that is, to appease your conscience at bedtime, and then accept the will of the council.
I suppose that's the thing. In the end, it's, you know, it's democracy. We'll come on to that in a set. Yeah, but it's a democracy. It's not a dictatorship. Unfortunately, you're not. You know, you're not the Queen of Denmead, so, you know, to some extent you have to.
Well, I wish I was. You know,
I mean, you should be. I mean, you've definitely got the best kitchen lighting in Denmead. That's definitely the case. That's definitely the case.
Well, thank you.
All right, listen. Let's I'll tell you what. Let's move on and do some questions. I'm sure some of what we haven't covered yet will come out in the questions, because we've had so many. I mean, lots and lots of them asking, lots of questions asking about the actual process. How do you actually go about becoming? R. Smith says, what's the exact process of being elected? Any advice on campaigning? the sort of the process, because I can see you all. If one of you particularly wants to answer, if you put your hand up, then I think I can come to you in who wants to tackle the process of becoming a. I'll tell you what, Jackie, why don't you describe it first of all? The sort of, if I right now thought, actually I do want to become a councillor where I am in Fleet in Hampshire, how do you go about doing that? What's the process?
You have two options. One is every 4 years, it's everybody out. So the whole council in effect resigns, and it's a full-scale election. Often you don't see that because it's not actually a contested election. So by that I mean, if there are 10 seats and 10 people come forward, it's an uncontested election, you all get a seat. 10 seats, 11 people come forward, you'll have an election. Then there's the, I can't remember which speaker mentioned it, but you also have what you call a casual vacancy. So if you have hesitate to say that perhaps it's got something to do with the demographic, but people do leave for other reasons apart from, so, you'll have a casual vacancy during the term, and there's a possibility that it's not contested. And at that point, it will be a bit like a job advert. So, you'll put forward and you'll tell the sitting councillors what you can bring to the table for that community. Those are your two ways in.
And Emily, you did that, didn't you? You were co-opted the first time and then later stood for election.
Yeah, absolutely. So the co-option, exactly as Jackie said, the election, in terms of kind of the exact process of the election, you can put yourself forward and you have to be proposed and seconded. So you have two people, and it's always a bit embarrassing. You have to kind of go round to your neighbour and say, "Oh, do you mind? I'm going for the parish council." And we actually did have an election in Croxley Green because we had more people wanting to be part of the council than places. So 4 years ago, there was a proper election and people had to go and vote. But as Jackie said, often you don't. So then you don't have that kind of horrible campaign feeling where you think, "Oh, I'm going to have to go out and put big banners with my name on." Yeah, you pop to your neighbours. I'm sure they'd be very happy to second you and propose you because it's in their interest, because they want to have a councillor living next door. And then you send that in, and what you do is you find out a few weeks later how many people have actually put themselves forward, and then you'll find out if there's going to be an election or not. And if there is an election, you can then campaign. So I did a video which was very cringy, but I was the only person that did a video in my area, but I wanted to feel like a person. I didn't want to just feel like a leaflet through the door, but also a leaflet through the door. And I guess my advice to anyone that's campaigning is just be yourself. Don't try to be someone that you're not. Don't try to make any promises that you can't fulfill, because people will call you up on it. And put yourself out there and be prepared that it sounds really weird, but someone stopped me at the train station. I was coming home from work and I felt really tired and grumpy after a long commute. And someone stopped me and wanted to have a chat, and that can happen. It's probably quite rare. It's not like, it's fine, but you do want to be approachable to people and get their views as well. But it's not as scary as it seems, and somehow people do vote for you. I've thought no one's going to vote for me, it's going to be really embarrassing and I'll get one vote. But you can, when people vote, they don't just vote for one person, they vote for as many places that you've got on the council. So if 10 people are going, there's 10 places and 11 people stand, each person that goes to vote has got 10 votes. So I doubt that anyone would never get a vote. I mean, you hope to vote, and you can also vote for yourself, so you get at least one vote.
That's one way of securing it. You've just touched on there slightly about you hope on the way home and the long commute and all that, and you're trying to juggle it around jobs and that sort of thing. We've had a few questions on this, but Henry says, how difficult is it in terms of finding time for everything, balancing a career and work on the council at the same time? Dan, how do you find that?
Quite difficult at times, to be honest. It's definitely kind of like I've really had family help. My wife in particular has been brilliant. She's becoming quite self-sufficient for me to leave for work in the morning, go straight to a town council meeting after work and come home around about 9 o'clock with some dinner ready and things like that. So she's been fantastic, and you need that support. And you also need it from family as well. My parents still live in much Wenlock, so they keep an eye. Excuse me a second. That's better. They keep an eye on the issues and things as well. So that helps because you've got that support, kind of almost support bubble around you. Because if you can talk about something, because it becomes a big thing in your life, and if you can talk about it and have support from them and get their thoughts on it, then you do feel more confident that you're doing the right thing. Because there are those times when there's a lot of different options you can do, and it's quite a complex problem you're trying to solve. And there's a lot of different people in the community who haven't thought about it anywhere near as much as you. But for them, it's the most important thing that they've thought about, and they're definitely right, and they can't even consider that there might be another option or a way to do something. So you do have to kind of juggle that, and family and things helps. But there are some councillors that get really involved and do a lot of projects, and there's some councillors that slightly get less involved. So at times you may have to step back from a few things. You can't be on every project your council's doing.
Jackie, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Dan kind of covered it towards the end there. I mean, really, it is a kind of role that is very flexible. I mean, at its very, every speaker this evening, Rachael, Emily and Dan, have spoken as very committed councillors. But you're not the only councillor on a council. And that means that the role can be flexible as you need it to be. So you can be more involved at some point than you are in others. And also within a council, you may decide that you have a particular interest or a particular expertise. I mean, for example, if planning is your thing, you'll join the planning committee. If finance is your thing, you'll join the finance committee. But you don't have to be on every committee or commit half your life to it unless you're in a place where you're able to. You know, it can be flexible around what it is that you're trying to achieve.
Rachael, is that what you found as well? How do you juggle being your life as a councillor with your life? Oh, Rachael, you're on mute again. There we go. You're back. You're back.
Happening? I actually find it fits really well in with my lifestyle because I can receive all the information prior to the meeting. It gives me days to consume it, whether that is 5 a.m. in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So, and similar to what Jackie said, you can be as involved or not as involved as much as you might like. And remember, if there was any health problems or personal problems, you can be away for quite a significant amount of time before having to be called back to the council. It's within 6 months.
So that's good. So there's a bit of flexibility there. What's has that been your experience as well, Emily? I'll sort of roll in the next question as well. Someone says, if you could change one thing about how parish councils operate, what would that be? So I'll start with you, Emily, and you know, whether it's to improve the way the councils run or the work-life balance, whatever it might be.
Yeah, So I have a lot of flexibility. I've got a 7-month-old baby, and that kind of happened in the middle of me being a councillor. And actually, I think she was only 10 days old when I had a council meeting. And I would say the council meetings don't happen that regularly. It's the time outside. Exactly as Rachel said, you can plan your own time. I guess one of the things I would change is more I would continue. So and I know there's been a question about how do you communicate when you've got Zoom. Zoom has been so helpful for me to have meetings on because I wouldn't have been able to go to meetings whilst having my daughter. And I think continuing that or being able to reach people that perhaps don't want to come out of the house at 8 o'clock in the evening, but still want to just go on to a Zoom meeting and listen to what's happening in the council, I think is really good. So I think it's more of a continue rather than a change, but continue being able to offer a flexible approach to people getting involved that don't have to attend in person.
It's interesting, actually. Someone else, Councillor Thorpe brackets chairman. So I think we know exactly what we're dealing with there. Specifically a question to you, Jackie, but I think Emily slightly touched on it, saying, do you think virtual meetings allow for local councils to effectively engage with their parishioners? I mean, perhaps less so in Handforth, but has that changed the way that councils might work, do you think, Jackie?
Well, the feedback that I've had so far is that there has been more interest in council meetings as in people turning up. And yeah, there was something around, just the curiosity of it, but actually it's more about people who are turning up to actually see.
Oh, we're all moving. I think Jackie is the one that's frozen. We'll come back to Jackie in a moment. Rachel, have you had some of your meetings happening on Zoom as well? No, you're muted again.
Yes,
you're back now. You are back now, Rachel. Go on.
Zoom, but if I could change anything, it would be total engagement.
Well, that's interesting. So, do you mean engagement with your fellow councillors or with the community?
The whole community.
The whole community.
You have to do letters on the signpost. You have to do social media. You have to try every possible way to try and get people interested.
Well, this is a good question. Sort of follows on from that. Dan, you might be good on this because of your experience using Facebook. John says, I run the main local Facebook community group in our area, 32,000 residents. It's only been the last couple of years that the parish council have bothered to engage with us. Yet we're always the first the first to crop up when an election is imminent. Oh, there we are. The election is for the whole year round, not just elections. But how do you? Because we've all got these now, and often several of them, big local Facebook groups with everybody gripes and moans. How do you interact in that in a way that is helpful to everyone and without being, oh, here he comes from the council? How do you? I mean, I have to say, at the weekend, we had a power cut. I obviously went on our local Facebook groups. First thing I did, saying anyone else got a power cut. It was our local town councillor who was the first one to send me a link to the power company, and it turned out there wasn't ours. So in that sense, that was the most useful thing that the town council have done for me. But Dan, what's your advice on how to interact with those groups and using social media?
For me, it's just being open, honest, and approachable. So I do try to keep an eye on it. So it's ideally if you can be one of the first ones to respond, to just say, yep, we've noticed this. This is what we're dealing with it. We appreciate it's not great. We understand. Show a bit of compassion and just, because at the end of the day, at this level, you're volunteers. So let's just remember that, guys. What you're doing is a great thing, but you are volunteers. You've all got lives. In this case, you've got children and careers and everything. So, but those things have to take priority. So, but if you're just open and honest, and just if you can get to the comment early, that's always good. But if you can just be open, honest, and show a bit of compassion, you can go a long way to working with people. And yeah, much Wenlock's group and the neighbouring one, which I'm also in, they can get quite feisty. If you can get in there and just explain, yeah, I understand that we're struggling with this. This is what we're doing. We're onto it. Leave it with us. Thanks for your patience. That type of thing.
That's a good top tip. Yeah, someone else asking, what are the best ways of parish council to contact residents and potential candidates? How do you do it, Rachel, with your council? How do you, the days of everyone reading the parish newsletter probably long gone. How do you do that interaction?
No, we still have the newspaper because there's
very good.
Still be in touch with the ones that are not on social media, but also they have a social media platform as well. And of course, there's notice boards all throughout the village, So that's about it, really.
That's good. What about you, Emily? How do you use social media?
Yeah, the same. And I think definitely kind of similarly to Dan responding to queries, but I think we also, we do like a push and a pull. So we'll also post on social media if we're thinking of doing an event. So before I did I talked about the Christmas karaoke, I posted in the Croxley Green Mums and Dads group and said, do you think this will be worthwhile, before I even pull a paper together to propose it? And I think the residents really appreciate that. So almost having the kind of, not giving them false hope if it's not going to be possible, but saying, I'm going to be proposing this soon, do you support it? And it's also helpful, then you can go to a council meeting and say, well, I've already spoken to residents, they're supportive. But we do stuff like that, and we vote on things. And we had a tractor that we got people to vote on a name for the tractor, and it ended up being Tractor McTractorface.
Of course it does.
Yeah. So sometimes it doesn't work in our favour, but we do try to get them to vote on things and provide suggestions as well.
I think this might be social media related. Lynn says, Emily, would you be able to share your video, please? I'm not sure if that's your campaign video or the video of you doing karaoke, but I'll leave you two to sort that out. We've had quite a few asking about there was where was it got? Basically, the sort of the process of training. Should there be compulsory training for all councillors? Would that improve the behaviour? Someone else asked a question about. Well, Ray says, can you recommend an onboarding plan for a new councillor? I mean, I'm going to mark you down, Ray, for using the word onboarding, but I take your point. What's the best, if someone is becoming a councillor, what training is available? And would it be better if there was more training available? Let's start with you, Jackie, because you've had to deal with the less well-trained.
Yeah, and don't think I didn't notice, Matt. You kicked me. Yeah, I mean, it's part of what every county association offers. There will be some level of training offered to councillors. Trouble is that it's often the councillors who are most in need of training that don't actually attend training. I mean, we've lobbied for an awfully long time about, particularly in terms of raising standards generally, that there should be some element of mandatory training, but for the moment there isn't. So we're looking at encouraging people to take on board training. I guess that a simple entry level course is something that most county associations will offer. It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world for you to actually go along to a training session before you became a councillor. I've heard of crazier things. And I'm sure that you would be made welcome. And my personal favourite, sorry if there are any chairmen in the room, is chairmen definitely need training, because ultimately they are the ones that, like Matt's doing for us this evening, are actually moving us forward through the night's business. And without that steer, you end up with a chat, which is very nice, but it's not driving any business forward. Yeah,
and when it enters its fourth or fifth hour, the niceness of that chat is less favourable. I'm really interested to know about the panel, about what training you did or didn't have, or you might have liked to have had, or you wish you'd had. Yeah, let's start with you, Dan.
Yeah, so when I joined, probably within about the first 2-3 months, I had a training on the core concepts of accounting, which was about a day or an afternoon. And that was really good because it just explained exactly almost what we'd signed up for, but also actually just to understand the kind of nitty-gritty legal side to it, and why things are done the way they are, whether it's why the agenda's like it is, what you can and can't do in a meeting, things like, dare I say it, your standing orders. so things like that. Then that was excellent. And that's obviously organised by Cllr, where I am. So it's the Shropshire Association of Local Councils, which is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to really support tonight, was because NALC are excellent, and particularly for which we deal with quite a lot, the Cllr, which is the Shropshire equivalent, is really good. When I was nominated as deputy mayor, so here in Wenlock, your town elect the councillors, and the councillors elect a chair and a deputy chair, and that chair, because it's a town council, becomes mayor. So when I became deputy mayor, I had a chairmanship training, which was a full day, and it was really fantastic. And it was really useful to just, because it is a really weird thing to do, that you're chairing a meeting compared to a work meeting when you've got roles defined and you're not quite public servants, you actually have a defined role in a team and a company. So it was really useful, that training. And I will probably go on it again for a refresher, because there's things that there was so much information the first time. If you do it twice, you actually pick up things you didn't notice or couldn't take in the first time. So the training is absolutely out there, and I think it's fantastic. And really, people do need to use it, because it's relatively inexpensive for the town council to cover.
That's top tip. Rachel and Emily, do you want to add anything? Because we want to get through as many questions as possible. It's fine if you do.
I would just recommend purchasing the Arnold Baker book for reference 12th edition.
Top tip. Excellent stuff. Right. Let's look at a couple more questions. If you want to become a councillor and there are no vacancies, what should we do? We obviously covered the fact that there are too many vacancies often, and you could be co-opted. What do you do if there are no vacancies, Jackie?
Well, first of all, a hitman is totally out of the question. But there are other ways of getting involved in a council without actually being a directly elected member. One of the options is that you might consider joining one of the committees or working groups as a non-voting member. And the benefit of that is that straight away you're kind of in there, you're getting to know the people, you're getting to know the issues. And then, of course, when there is a vacancy, then you will be well placed to take it.
That's top advice. Now, we've had a few on the subject of how do you change a town council from being laid back, says Nick, and just doing the minimum to a more forward-looking town council. Someone else who's anonymous saying, very new town council, just over a month. Could you advise me what to do when you see your own town council descending into chaos? Lots of reply all emails and power struggles and so on. So I don't know if any of you want to fess up to having any problems on your council, or maybe this is one for Jack. Anyone want to put their hand up to volunteer this? How do you sort of put rocket boosters under a council that might have rested on its laurels a little bit? No, of course you're not. Oh, go on then, Dan. You could jump in there.
To be honest, the simplest answer is the ballot box. I mean, even if that council is there for 4 years and is dead wood, stand against them, and get other people who are committee standing for the right reasons. They can make a change, and there's an election obviously for myself in May this year, so there will be some churn and there will be some new councillors coming in who will naturally provide some good opportunities to grow with the council as well. But I think for the existing council, if you can kind of get a project that you're all signed up on, and it takes a bit of cajoling and different viewpoints and debating, but if you can get a project that everyone can see the benefit of, and maybe get a subgroup of councillors who are committed, once that project starts taking off, I've seen people who have been on the council for many years start to really kind of get back into it and almost like start flexing their muscles, which they haven't used proverbially for a while. So so projects and things, if you can identify what the public wants or a good project, it can really work.
That's some top advice. Right. Oh yeah, Rachel, do you want to come in there? That's it. There we go.
I'd just like to say that a council is only as strong as the community that supports it. So if you don't have, if you consider a weak council as because there's a break between the community and council, and they really need to try and work that together.
That's excellent advice. What about you, Emily? How would, if someone did have, obviously not like yours, but a different council that was a bit stale maybe, or infighting rather than looking outwards, what would you suggest about how to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Dan. It's all about the people. So I think it's, either get a passionate topic, and I'd say sometimes just getting to know people. So if you are the new person coming in and it feels stale, you can kind of get to know people and what they're passionate about and get them, as Dan said, a bit more excited about being part of it. But otherwise, you don't need everyone else's support. You can still do stuff yourself. So even if not much is going on, it doesn't mean that you have to be part of a council that isn't moving forward. You can move forward without everyone else. Obviously, you'd hope that they would follow you.
That's all excellent advice. Right, let's see if we could squeeze a few more in, which aren't sort of very, very specific, because we want to make this sound fun. We touched a little bit on party politics, and Jackie mentioned that in general, is there party politics in any of your councils? Does it ever creep in? How do you stop it creeping in, Emily? You're shaking your head, but how do you stop it creeping in?
I mean, I don't even know what party people support in our council, if they even support it. It's never come into it at all. I don't think it ever would come into it. I'm sure that people that have known each other for a bit longer or a bit closer in friends or anything like that, they would know, but it's never come into it. I'd say the only kind of politics, as Jackie said, is just people being passionate. So it's not about party politics, it's just someone being passionate about what they're doing, and that's it really.
That's good. That's some good advice. Yeah, let's keep I think keeping party politics out of all politics would make all of our lives much easier. What skills? This is from Brian. What skill set and type of personality do you think makes a good parish or town councillor? And I suppose it's also, I suspect that the answer is that you want a mix to make a good parish or town council. But Rachel, what do you think is the sort of personality trait that someone needs if they're going to become a town or parish councillor?
I just think you need a whole variety of people, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. A whole variety, but that's I suppose that's a good thing, isn't it? It's to break away from this idea of that is what a parish council is like. Dan, you've got yeah. What do you think?
The first thing that really sticks out to me when you have that is the Nolan Principles, and I've got a copy of, I'm not sure where it is, the Good Counsellor's Guide, which I got from SALC, originally from NALC, and it talks about 7 principles which are kind of the right thing: selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. And those kind of are quite a good guide of the things that you need to be. You need to be honest. You need to be open. You are accountable, not just in the ballot box, but for the decisions you make for your town. And that is a really useful book that for new councillors can read, and it's really supportive, and it just explains a lot of things and shows and there's examples in there, shows what a really good council can be. And it just reminds, and we'll remind each other in Wenlock occasionally, though hopefully rarely, come on, that you signed up for these Nolan Principles by being a public servant. You're in public life now. It's only a small parish council. It's the lowest form of government there is, but you're still in public life, and it's still important, and you need to abide by these principles.
That's an excellent answer. Thank you for that, Dan. Rachel, what do you think about the? Oh no, I think I asked you. I've already asked you. You said everyone. Emily, who you said basically everyone. Was it the personality traits, if you like, for what makes a good councillor?
Well, I'd say to Brian, it's you. So it's your personality and it's your skill set, because you are representative of the community. So there's nothing specific that you need. You don't need to have any specific knowledge or skill set. And as Rachel said, it's just a mix of people. So just be yourself. You will be perfect.
Right, so I've got one more quick question, which I'm going to ask Jackie, and then I'll come to the three of you to do sort of doorstep pitch. Jackie, can strict adherence to standing orders actually frustrate the effective working of a parish council? Asks Anthony.
No.
That's also an excellent politician's answer, because it's nice and short. I know, go on then, give me the because.
Frustrate local government, effective local government, is when we decide to implement our standing orders piecemeal, and we decide that we like this bit and we won't use this bit, etc. I noticed in the chat a number of people have commented on why we're not talking more about the Local Government Act 1972 and the Localism Act 2011, because we don't want to bore people to death.
I know, we were supposed to be attracting people to this, not putting them off.
And I guess that was what I was trying to say very early on this evening, which is about absolutely everything we do is underpinned by legislation. There's a lot to learn, but don't let that put you off if what you want to do is come forward with enthusiasm for your community, because there's dull people like me around to help you navigate your way through that. So, you know, that shouldn't be a barrier. And if anybody wants to chat later on about the 1972 Act, don't hesitate to get in touch.
Excellent, thank you for that, Jackie. Right, I'm going to ask three councillors for your sort of doorstep sales pitch. Now, I'm not sure, it depends how patient your local residents are, how long they might keep the door. But let's say you've got 30 seconds. Your sort of 30-second doorstep pitch for why you should become a councillor. Let's start with you, Dan.
Because anybody can do it. You've all got different skills and abilities that can make a big difference. All you just need to be is passionate about your community, and the fact that you're probably here tonight shows that you are. And it's just a great thing to do. It's great for your career, it's great for your life, and you really get to feel the movers and shakers of your community and really can help drive that and be part of that. It's an excellent thing to do.
Excellent stuff. Thank you for that, Dan. Emily?
I don't think I can add much to that. You know, you can just make some of your ideas a reality. It's a really good platform to give back to the community, but also to invest in the place that you're living in for the future, for future grandchildren, great-grandchildren, etc.
Perfect. That's nice. And finally, Rachel, last word to you. The last muted word to Rachel. There we go.
I would just like to say that if I worked my will, I would personally invite every neurodivergent person and send parent to attend to become a local councillor. If you want to see a change in your community, then please be the example. Thank
That
you.
is excellent. It's a really good message, Rachel, to end on. I think that the overwhelming thing that we've got across is that it's open to everyone. That's the whole point. You're just representing your local area, and I think we've had loads of nice messages in the chat, being nice about all of you, but also lots of questions, and it's really good. I'm sorry we haven't got through as many all of the questions. We've had absolutely loads. Oliver says, "Could Jackie please throw me out of this meeting?" Which that feels like a service that you probably have to pay for online. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope it's inspired you and made you think this is a positive thing to do, and that you do get involved. And I'd really like to hear about your stories in 12 months' time, and you've completely changed your local areas. Do use the National Association with Local Councils would like you to complete the feedback form, and I think that's and you can use that. There we are, the Survey Monkey, or you can get your phone out. We've all used to doing this now, thanks to the NHS app. Get your phone out, snap that QR code, and just provide some feedback. And of course, you can find out more about the Make a Change campaign at the website www.nalc.gov.uk, and you can listen to my radio show where we talk about this sort of thing and other things loosely to do with politics. I'm on Times Radio Monday to Thursday 10 till 1, or you can download the podcast and all that, and do get in touch and let us know your stories. You can email me matt.chorley@times.radio if you've got a story that you think is interesting and you want to get it on the radio, then do get in touch. But I hope you've enjoyed it. Do use all the resources from the National Association of Local Councils. Thank you to Rachel, Dan, Emily, and Jackie, but also thank you for watching. But now go and do something. That's the whole point. Otherwise, we've completely wasted our evening. Thanks so much. Goodbye.